Hello everyone! Today we have a special treat and you might even learn something new. For those of you who don't know, my family and I are of Scottish descent, and we very much recognize that, as it's very much special and important to who we are and where we came from. In light of that, you're going to learn a few Scottish Gaelic words today, along with a recipe and a little bit of history on Celtic tradition. So if you don't want a history lesson today and you're just looking for a recipe, go ahead and skip further into the video. As you know, Halloween, or All Hallows Eve, and All Saints Day is right around the corner. But so is Samhain. Samhain is a pagan religious festival, originating from ancient Celtic spiritual tradition. Taking place at the midpoint between the fall equinox and the winter solstice, it's celebrated from October 31st through November 1st, as it welcomes in the harvest and ushers in the dark half of the year. Amongst celebrants, it is believed that the barrier between the physical world and the spiritual world is breached, therefore allowing interactions between humans and the denizens of the other world. In modern times, many aspects of Samhain have been incorporated into the modern Halloween celebration. During Samhain, Celts will light bonfires and wear disguises, such as the current day costumes, to ward off evil spirits. They will also prepare special foods and have feasts. Traditional Samhain recipes are hearty and warm and incorporate seasonal ingredients, like pumpkins, apples, and root vegetables. The recipes are rich and flavorful and a reminder of Celtic tradition and influence on modern Halloween celebration. One of the most popular Samhain recipes is soul cakes. These are biscuit-like cakes that were given out to poor people and children who went souling. They would go from door to door offering to pray for people of the home in exchange for food, in order to keep the malevolent spirits away. This practice dates back to the medieval period and continued through the 1930s, and it has now transformed into the modern day trick-or-treating. With that being said, we are making soul cakes today. For this recipe, you'll need 3/4 a cup of butter, softened, 3/4 a cup of sugar, 4 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 egg, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of nutmeg, a 1/2 teaspoon of ginger, a 1/4 teaspoon of clove, and 3/4 a cup of dried cranberries. But you can really use any type of dried fruit that you'd like. But before we start on the recipe, I'm going to share with you a little poem about Samhain from my Celtic folklore book. They danced the 9 quartergans with crowns of flowers and robes of white. They dance about the fountain in the pale moonlight. Now finally, let's hop into that recipe. We're going to start by creaming together the sugar and the butter. I've cut my softened butter into cubes just so that we can blend it into the sugar a little bit easier. I'm going to be using a hand mixer, but a stand mixer works just fine. You should now have some nice crumbly pieces. Now we're going to go ahead and add in the egg. And we'll go ahead and mix that up with the blender as well. We're now going to use our wooden spoon to incorporate the flour. We're going to add the flour a little bit at a time and continue to incorporate it as we go. We want to mix the dough until it forms a shaggy dough. It shouldn't be all incorporated yet though. We're now going to go ahead and add our spices, starting off with cinnamon, nutmeg, ginger. I also want to note that you could have definitely just whisked your spices into the flour before adding it. I don't know why I'm doing it the complicated way, but that is another option. Or you can do it this way. And cloves. Now I do know I forgot to mention 2 ingredients, so we'll also be adding a 1/2 teaspoon of salt and a 1/4 cup of milk. We're gonna go ahead and finish incorporating that flour and incorporate those spices as well. We're now gonna go ahead and mix in our cranberries. You should have a very crumbly mixture, kind of like when making a pie crust. So now we're going to go ahead and add that 1/4 cup of milk. I'm going to use the wooden spoon initially to incorporate the milk, but then I'm going to use my hands to finish the rest of the work. Now I know I made a mess, but that's okay because we're going to turn the dough out onto our surface anyways. Before turning your mixture out though, you should have somewhat of a dough already formed. So let's go ahead and flour our surface. A bit more. We're now going to finish incorporating our dough together and we're going to shape it into a ball. We're now going to go ahead and start rolling this out. We're rolling the dough out until it's about a ½ centimeter thick. Now if you have a cookie cutter, hopefully one with a really cute ruffled edge, use that, but if you don't, like me, we're just going to use a glass jar. I'm going to go ahead and just peel off the excess dough. Now the excess dough is plenty for a second batch of cookies, or you can go ahead and freeze it and save it for later. Here I have a baking sheet lined with parchment paper, and we're going to go ahead and put our cookies on here. And I suggest using a spatula so you don't tear them. I'm going to be baking 8 at a time. They're about 2 centimeters apart. Before we place them in the oven, we're going to go ahead and use a sharp knife to create a cross on top of each cookie. Now we're going to place these in the oven at 190 degrees Celsius or 375 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 minutes. And here we have our soul cakes for Samhain. We're going to go ahead and transfer these to a wire rack for cooling. Here's the first 8 that I finished baking, and the second batch is almost done. Here I have both of the batches of cookies I made. Now I only used half of the dough. This recipe makes about 40 to 45 cookies, and right here I have about 20. I hope this recipe is helpful in your Samhain celebration, and if you have any comments or questions, go ahead and leave those below in the comment section. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you happen to like it or found it interesting, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future content. Og ikke havne, han er hyt. And happy Samhain. Cheery and Draste.